It is so wonderful to be with you all, and it's quite humbling knowing the significant amount of wisdom in this room. Well, I guess kind of a virtual room, if you will. So thank you so much. I don't know, this has really been a journey that we have been on over the last 10 years of our family's life. And it really began 10 years ago when I was out having lunch with someone in our neighborhood, and he asked me, and he said, "You're a Christian, right?" And I said, "Yeah." I wasn't really 100% sure like what he was getting after, knowing that he was not yet a Christian. He said, I got to know, why is it you Christians are always inviting me to your stuff? It's like you invite me to your events, you invite me to like your gatherings, you invite me to like your holiday stuff. He's like, I just want to know, like, when are you going to just not invite me into your world, but when are you going to step into mine? And for me, that was such a pivotal moment in kind of this neighboring journey, or this really incarnational way of living journey, to realize in some ways that I had spent a majority of my life following Jesus, inviting people into my world, doing the opposite of what Jesus did and what we celebrate even at this time in the year, about Jesus stepping into our worlds. And I really believe that's this heart that we're trying to get at when it comes to neighboring. And so really what I've noticed personally, and what I've experienced as we've engaged in our neighbors, is often kind of this neighboring kind of journey really begins more with a shift in our paradigms, and then practice begins to follow. And so, I mean, it's really kind of about, without a change in the way we see or in our paradigm, often our efforts toward neighboring or incarnational living or incarnational mission are short-lived and quickly given up on when we face challenges. And that's even more so maybe here in the city. And so while there are a handful of like shifts that and practices that maybe I could talk about, I'll just throw out a few really, really quickly. And I would say one of the biggest shifts for us in this neighboring journey has really been more so in the way we view ourselves, particularly seeing ourselves as individuals and as a family as sent. That being sent in a similar manner to Jesus, and that is not just something that we do, but it is part of who we are. It's a part of our identity. And this reality of a sent people should then challenge us, and it's challenged me to answer the question, to whom have I been sent? And I feel like this is one of the most important questions as a Christ follower that I have had to answer over the last several years. And it has guided me and it's guided our family as we've tried to really engage our neighbors and be good news to them. And not only has answering this question, like, it's narrowed the scope of our lives and mission, but it's also created new margin so that we could build really deep and significant friendships with those that we live alongside. I think for majority of my life of following Jesus, I felt like I was doing so many things, and I was never in a space to where I could really develop deep, significant relationships. And I just didn't have the margin to do it. And so I think being able to answer the question, to whom have I been sent, has allowed us as a family to say no to a lot of other great things. It's allowed me to say no to being on the PTA, and it's allowed me to say no to a bunch of other stuff, coaching, sporting events or whatever, because for us, as we've been able to wrestle with this question, we've kind of been able to say, actually, in this season of our life, we feel like we have been sent to our building. And so we've begun to then reorient our lives around this people and this place. Now, I think COVID in many ways has gotten the ball rolling for so many people. We're engaging fewer people, we're traveling less, we're commuting less, and we're just being out and about and less. So we do now find ourselves with significantly, probably more margin to engage those that we live alongside, our neighbors and in our neighborhood, which I think has just simply been significant. I would also say that for us, being able to answer this question, it's helped us and it's helped our children taken our faith from this one that's been kind of reactionary and theoretical to something that's very proactive and tangible. And our kids are experiencing not just information about Jesus, but they're also able to see what a tangible picture it is, and what it means to imitate the life of Jesus, because we're doing it here and now. And not only have our neighbors then been able to hear about the good news of Jesus, but our neighbors are also being able to experience what the good news of the kingdom is, through kind of like the context of committed friendship over the course of a long period of time. And I would just simply also say that knowing where we have been sent has allowed us to be more attuned to how we can join God in his redemptive mission. So, I mean, just an example, our mornings kind of really begin with a prayer that's just simply this: God, today in our building or in the place that we've been sent, where are you working and how can we join you in it? And so now we spend our days looking and waiting and seeing and trying to be attuned to how the Spirit's working so that we can just simply join him in being a good neighbor. And that's not to everybody. That's not all over Manhattan. That's just simply in our building. I recently read a quote in a book, and I just loved it. So I copied it down and wanted to share with you. It says, when Jesus bids us, come follow me, it says he calls us into a particular places that we can see, walk, smell, and inhabit. God's call is not a call to be everywhere. It is a call to be somewhere. And I love that, because it's really been, it kind of really paints the picture of what our story has been like over the last 10 years in trying to be a good neighbor. And sometimes that was so often sacrificed because we try to be a neighbor to everybody rather than actually just simply being a neighbor to the people we feel God has sent us to. I would say a quick second shift would be not only in the way we see ourselves, but also in the way we see our neighbors, that we've begun to see them as people with significant value to contribute. In the Gospels, I love how over and over again it says that Jesus was a friend of sinners, and that word friend implies this sense of mutuality. And it is in mutual friendship that not only allows for the kingdom to be revealed, but I think it also allows for ourselves to be formed and sustained in incarnational neighboring efforts. And I think as long as we remain the only ones with value in our neighborhoods, we will never truly become friends with those that we live alongside. And I think over time, we will end up burning out. I've seen it over and over and over again. It's like until we have that shift to say, what does it look like for me to actually share life and make the people that I live alongside my friends? We continue to give and serve, and we never allow ourselves to receive. And I know that for our family over the last 10 years and even over the last 9 months, there's been nothing more formative and sustaining than our engagement with our neighbors. Our family got COVID back in March, and many of our neighbors who had become our friends came to our beck and call. I mean, they were sending meals, they were picking up groceries, they were checking in on us. And once we even recovered, one family that lives directly next to us allowed us a bit of a respite to come out to their cabin in the Catskills. And so we were able to go there and stay there a week. And I believe that our neighbors and putting ourselves in a place not only to give and to bring value, but also to receive the value that our neighbors have, has allowed this to be something that is not project-based. It's not an added extra onto our lives. It's just truly seeking friendship with those that we live alongside and searching and looking for the way that our neighbors reveal and mirror the image of God, and then even calling that out in them. And I think that has been significantly helpful as we have tried to sustain. And so I came across this. Here's another quote that I just absolutely love. And it says, so Jesus did not call us to the lost, broken, poor, and to the pain just to be helpful to them, although this is incredibly wonderful. He called us there for fundamental solidarity with the real and with the transformation of ourselves. we don't only go to the edge just to be helpful to others, but only after the fact do we realize um, that it was really to let them help us in ways that we knew we never needed. He says, I call this reverse mission. The ones that we think we are saving end up saving us in the process. And it's been one of those shifts that I think has allowed us to see significant transformation in our lives because of our neighbors, but also in the lives of those that we live alongside. And I would just simply say this as well as one last thing, that I believe that not only is there a shift in paradigms when we begin this neighboring journey in the way we view ourselves and the way we view our neighbors, but I do believe that there has to be a shift at an organizational level when we think about our leadership of our congregations and our churches, that over time that we begin to see incarnational mission or neighboring as an essential element to discipleship rather than just simply an optional extra. And I would go so far to even say that maybe this becomes our starting place in the discipleship of those that are a part of our congregation and those in our community. And I think this allows for churches to engage new discipling relationships with those that we live alongside and those we befriend, seeing how for many, I really do think that the starting their discipleship pathway with participation in a weekly gathering has been significantly disrupted over the course of the last 7 or 8 months. And so if that's been the case, where do we start our discipling efforts? I think it's with our neighbors. It's seeing that discipleship is not just something that we do with those who are Christians, but it's something that we do with those who are not yet Christians as well. And I also think that incarnational living or neighboring, including it as a essential part of really our discipleship, requires then that those in our congregation move from simply information about Jesus to the imitation of Jesus, that in the same manner of Jesus, they too are sent. And really the fullness of who we are as Christ followers is expressed in a people and in a place. And so I know that that is not a shift that happens overnight. That is a shift that happens over the course of a long period of time. And so if I could just boil it down to anything, I would just simply say that kind of engaging the task of neighboring, which I think is more crucial now than ever, I think it begins in a shift in the way we see rather than just something that we do. And so I know that's kind of like probably not new information to everybody, but I feel like I keep coming back to that over and over and over again.